Hey, it's Don Copeland here today with the Compress IUV 600S. And we're going to do something a little different, all right? We're not going to print anything. We've already printed something. What we want to do is share a little bit and talk a little bit about, where does this fit into the marketplace? And probably the most common position that this kind of fits into has historically been filled by pad printing, also called tampo printing, right? It's just a process. It's kind of like, but not really like screen printing. So we want to kind of take a real world job and put it into a scenario and get an idea of what the cost differences, the time differences, and everything like that would be relative, right, to doing it digital versus doing it analog using pad printing. All right. For this situation, we're actually going to use some golf balls that we printed before here on one of our earlier videos. And now this would we did do it in process using the UV, but looking at this job, I'm going to bring one of these balls up here to you. This job actually can be done, all right, with 5 colors. All right, there are the 4 colors in the logo of Coldesi, and then there's the black for the names and the CD. All right, so this would be a job that could be pad printed. All right, and it would be pad printed. You would need at least a 5-color machine. I don't know of a lot of companies that make 5-color machines. That they'll make 2-color, 1-color, 2-color, 4-color, 6-color, a lot like embroidery machines. All right. So what we're going to do is compare this 5-color job. So we have 108 balls here. We're going to do a job. Let's say a job for 600 pieces, 5-color golf balls. All right. And let's do some comparisons. So when you go to print with pad printing, much like screen printing or any other type of analog process like that, embroidery, digitizing, same concept. You divide your design into a finite number of colors. In this case, we would have 5 colors. And each one of those colors would need to have a screen burn for it, all right? Or in this case, what we're going to do is what's called a cliché. Cliché is a plate that you actually pick the ink up off, and you actually have to burn into that either through etching or through photo etching a hole for the ink to sit in. So we'd had to print 5 films, all right, 1 representing each color. We would have to expose or etch 5 of these clichés, these plates. And you would generally, by the way, you would just expose them. You wouldn't etch these. You wouldn't etch these with a laser because you want to be able to just throw them out. It's like $5 or $6 for the most part for a coated cliché that you're going to be able to photo etch. All right, so those are $5 or $6. It's a lot more expensive for the metal ones. Now they're much longer life when you do a metal, and a metal cliché may last you 100,000 impressions, up to 1 million. Right? The grades that they have of the photo etchable, they range anywhere from maybe 10 to 20,000 up to maybe 50, 80,000 before the quality deteriorates to the point that you're not being able to get the ink out, it wears down. Okay, so we're going to even assume that you're going to go to the low end, which are about $5 a piece for those clichés. So I've generated the 5 cliché, the films. All right, I'm now exposing the 5 of them. Easily, this process is going to take about an hour to do the 5 of them. All right, so we have $5 into each one of these clichés. We have, just say comfortably, $1 a piece into each of the films. All right, so that's basically comes to $6 a color. All right, that's $30 for the films and the clichés. And we're going to be very generous again and say $20 an hour for labor. Whether it's $20 an hour for labor, the operator of this machine, or for the operator who's doing your exposure for your pad printing. Okay, so let's get this straight. Artwork had to be done, all right? Either way, we got to do the artwork. It's got to happen. You could make an argument that doing artwork for a digital printer is easier than doing artwork for where you're going to do separations, where you have to think about designing in spot colors, separating in spot colors, worry about trapping colors. Because generally what you would do on a design like this, you would have a little bit of an outline of the colors bled out, and then the black would trap it to take care of any registration issues. So it actually would take longer to set up the artwork, but we're not even going to go into that. The artwork was done. We're an hour into this. I now have my 5 colors separated out. I'm loading them onto my exceptionally large pad printing machine because it's a 5 colors on a 6-color machine. I did a bit of research on this. generally about as fast as anybody's going to claim for a 4-color machine to do 4 colors of an impression onto the balls. You're going to get 600 an hour. So that's why we chose this number. All right. Literally, if you're doing 5 colors, it's probably going to be a little bit slower. But again, benefit of the doubt, we're going to say that you can knock out 600 of these in 1 hour, 5 color. Once your press is set up, your pad printer is set up to print. So we're done. We've done an hour prep, right? $30 worth of materials with $20 worth of labor. So what's that come to? $50. We're $50 in already. Haven't printed a ball yet. All right. Now we're loading our machine up to get ready to go. And there's another thing we got to take into account. Whereas I can calculate exactly how much ink goes on each one of the balls that I print with a digital process, right? And in screen printing, you can even, in some cases, like if you're doing screen printing on shirts, you can reclaim your inks, right? When you're pad printing, the cups that you use on your pad printer have to be filled a given amount for the press to even work, okay? General rule on the size cups, which most of these machines have, which is like a 90 millimeter, is that they're going to need to be about a third full, which roughly translates into about 50 to 60 milliliters of ink. I mean, it's not 60, of grams of ink, all right? And that's just for them to operate. If you're going to print 600 balls, you have to have enough ink in there over those 600 balls to also cover that. So, but being conservative again, we're going to have to load up 5 cups with 60 grams of ink. When you do the math on it, basically what it comes to is that you're going to have about 1/4 of a liter of ink total between those 5 cups in order to be able to make the machine operate and have enough ink to print this job, okay? We're just going to leave it at that because you really can't reclaim it. Depending on the ink you use, a lot of the inks are 2 parts. I mean, you add basically an accelerant to get them to set up more quickly. So once you do it, you mix and go, you print, you're done. When you're done, you clean that cup out, you throw the ink out. It's not like you take the ink and put it back in the jar. It's just not something you do. So looking up, averaging out the price of the pad printing inks, let's call it 120 a liter is probably about the center point. They range from a low that I found of around 85 to 90 to a high of 160, $170 a liter. We'll pick 120 as a fair number. So I'm going to use 1/4 of a liter at $120 a liter. That comes out to $30 again. It's taken an hour to print. There's another $20 for the labor. So let's see if we got this right. We have the materials to set up our separations, $30. An hour of labor, $20. $50, no balls printed. All right, load the machine up with ink, $30. All right, kind of like when you get your car fixed. You know, when you take your car in to get it fixed, it's $500 no matter what. It seems like there's a pattern here, right? And then an hour of labor to print. So 2 hours of time, $60 worth of materials, $40 worth of labor, it's $100. We're not even going to say anything at all about how much time it's going to take to clean up the machine. Speaking of machines, my machine's talking to me. I'm going to unplug the WIM system now because we're not actually going to print. So that's the pad printing process. If you haven't experienced pad printing, now you have an idea of what it's about. There's other steps in there, cleaning out, making sure everything, but that was just the Reader's Digest version, realistic numbers of what it's going to take to print. And by the way, that's not on a, $5,000 pad printer. That's on a $30,000 pad printer that's a 6-color machine, all right? It's also assuming that you had each of these spot colors. I know you had the black, but we have some pretty wonky colors in here for our, they're Pantones, I think we made up colors. But that side effect, we're $100 in, 2 hours, we printed 600 balls, all right? Which is still sounds pretty good, right? You got $100 into the printing of 600 balls. So, roughly in the area about 17 cents a ball to print, something like that, all right? So now let's do the digital process. Using the Compress IUV 600S, we have a video, you can confirm this, and we actually printed these at what I would consider marginal quality. We went as fast as we could, maintaining the quality that we felt was acceptable. So again, I want to be very realistic about this. We print these at a higher speed mode, lower speed mode, higher quality mode, all right? Print time on these balls for 108 balls would be 8 minutes and 20 seconds for this entire bed, all right? Again, being very conservative, saying that gives us 1 minute and 40 seconds to reload. What we would actually do, we'd have a second jig. We would have loaded up, As soon as this was done, pop it off, pop another jig onto here, all right? Hit print again, and we're going to print it out. Easily, we can do that 6 times in an hour, all right? That comes out to 6 times 108, which is all day long 648 balls. So we actually are going to slightly less than an hour if we wanted to do 600. But again, in all fairness to the pad printing people out there in this world, we're just going to say we printed 600 balls digitally in an hour. Now, again, we agreed. We're going to pay our operators, going to cost us $20 an hour. That's insurance, taxes, and all that. So we have $20 into the labor. And we did the math. Our RIP software actually calculates how much ink goes down, and this is going to blow you away. This tray of balls, all right, each ball cost 0.11 cents to print, all right? Basically a ninth of a penny to print. So to do 600 balls is 66 cents. 600 balls for 66 cents, $20 for labor. So again, being the generous guy I am, we're going to call it 21 bucks, right? So we got $21 in labor and ink into it, all right? Cleanup is nothing, literally, when we're done. So the pad printing job to do 600 balls, which it seems like a large number for a lot of people. 2 hours to do, $100 worth of labor and parts and consumables, all right? And we still haven't cleaned the machine up yet. The digital process, 66 cents worth of consumables, $20 worth of labor, call it $21. So we printed these, we did this an hour faster, meaning that this machine was twice as productive for this type of work. All right, I'm not saying that there aren't situations where pad printing, if I wanted to do 100,000 golf balls with a one color logo in it, I'm smoking it with a pad printer all day long, all right? It's just a lot quicker and a lot simpler, and you rock and roll. And you etch the pad in one of the metal plates. But for small large orders, I mean, 600 sounds like a large order to a lot of people. You're going to be able to go in and produce these half the amount of time as you would with a pad printer, all right? And at literally 1/5 the cost. That's crazy, all right? And if it was one color jobs when we were doing 600, you would have maybe looked at that. The time would have come down to about an hour and 20 minutes, let's say, on the pad printer. But you still would have had the excessive cost. Your cost would go down somewhat, but you still have to load the machine up with the ink. So you're going to be looking at more like 66 cents versus, say, $40, all right, for everything. So plus the 20, so say double the price. This is the way to go for a lot of jobs that have historically been pad or tampo printed, and it's certainly the way to be able to add full color to jobs you wouldn't do otherwise. And one thing that we forgot to mention, we did these with variable data, all right, which is something that you're not going to be able to do with pad printing or tam printing. This job right here actually had 9 dozen different names and positions on the golf balls, which if you would have done that in pad printing, literally what you would have had to done, you would have had to set up a 6th plate that you would have dropped in the name and the position, and you would have had to change it out every dozen golf balls and get registration. Ain't happening, right? So that's just not fair to do to the pad printing guys. That's it. This is the new generation of pad printing, guys. This is digital pad printing. It's unlike just about any other digital process that we deal with in the apparel industry and things like that, where there are trade-offs, huge trade-offs of time versus saying, we say you only want to do high color short runs, let's say for direct to garment and things like that. However, with this, because of all that's involved in setting up for pad printing, because of the excessive waste that goes into filling the ink cups with ink, right? This just buries it on the most moderate and up to really high number to run. I would go so far as say we could probably done a 5,000 piece job here easily and still come out faster and come out cheaper with less work. So there's your little your little gospel on the difference between pad printing and using a UV printer. And by the way, you have similar situations when you get into larger items. Once you get above about 4 inches by 4 inches, pad printing goes out the window, and then you go into screen printing, and that goes only so far as well. The thing of beauty of having one of these is you're replacing two processes. You don't have to have screen printing equipment for your flat goods, your plaques, any type of thing, even items that you're manufacturing. All right, you're able to do inside of here that you would traditionally screen print as well, plastics and metals and whatnot. So that would be wrapping it up here a little bit. This is the Compress IUV 600S. Not really doing any printing today, but letting you see the kind of work you can do with this that historically has been done with more manual type of processes that are really starting to see their days slip away with something as small as this. This is, by the way, smaller than most 6-color pad printers. I'm Don Copeland with the Compress IUV printers.